Imagine you are inheriting the most important throne in Europe. Imagine you're succeeding the longest reigning queen in history. What would be your first order of business? Frankly, to just stay out of trouble. But it looks like King Charles did not get this memo. He is making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Let me show you two separate instances. The first one is from Northern Ireland. On Tuesday, King Charles made his first trip as monarch. He was signing the visitors' book at the Hillsborough Castle. And take a look what happened next.
I just have is it September 12th?
13th, sir.
Oh God, I'm the wrong date. 13?
Yes, sir.
You signed 12 earlier.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, 10. Oh God, please.
Oh, look, it's going everywhere. So nobody got shot.
Where's the land?
I look, it's everywhere.
Come on, there is bloody thing. What are we doing? Everybody's stinking.
We've all seen that. All that fuss over what? A pen. King Charles's pen was leaking ink all over his hand. So what does the monarch do? He has a mini breakdown. Now don't get me wrong, we all have been there before. Sometimes the smallest thing can get on your nerves. But when you are the King of Britain, can you afford to do that? And for the record, this wasn't King Charles's first outburst. That was on Saturday. He was signing documents after his proclamation ceremony. Take a look at what happened next. Clearly, pens are not the king's favorite. We are barely a week into his reign and he's had two breakdowns over them. Like I said, it can happen to any of us. But for King Charles, the expectations are huge. He succeeds a queen who perfected the art of bottling up emotions. You never saw Queen Elizabeth lose her temper. You never saw her laugh hysterically. She was always calm and composed in public. Which is why these videos have become controversial. They are adding to the anti-monarchy sentiment in Britain. We told you about this on Tuesday. British cops are rounding up Republican protesters. But wait till they hear the next bit of news. The British government has planned an extravagant funeral for the Queen. Dozens of ceremonies, processions, gun salutes, visits by world leaders. It promises to be a massive affair. Can you guess the total cost? According to some reports, $9 million. $9 million for a funeral. Now, there is a precedent for such spending. In 2002, when the Queen's mother died, Britain spent £5 million on the funeral. Today, that's worth almost $16 million. In 1997, Princess Diana's funeral cost between £3 million and £5 million, and that's around $10 to $17 million today. Remember, this is not coming out of royal pockets. This is taxpayer money. There is criticism around this extravagance, especially considering Britain's economic situation. Energy bills are expected to rise 27% in the winter. Almost 1.3 million Britons could fall into poverty. Simply put, people are struggling to make ends meet. And what does the government do? Spend $9 million on the Queen's funeral. I'm sure there are precedents about how the funeral must be done. In Britain, it's like a constitutional obligation, but the fact is, times have changed. Spending $9 million on a funeral is not tradition anymore, it's a blunder. And why just the funeral? Let's talk about the time leading up to the funeral. Britain announced 10 days of mourning when the Queen died. The period ends with her funeral on September 19th, which, by the way, is a public holiday. The London Stock Exchange will be closed, banks will be closed, all of which means massive losses for Britain. How much money are we talking about? According to some estimates, the September GDP could take a 0.2% hit. Imagine that. One funeral and the GDP falls 0.2%. And it's not a first for Britain. In the month of June, their GDP dropped 0.6%. Guess what happened in that month? There was an extra public holiday to honor the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. You see, the economy is a very precise system. Even the slightest disturbance can derail it. Case in point, public holidays. September will have an extra holiday because of the funeral, and that means the economy will take a hit. So does this mean that Britain should not commemorate and celebrate the Queen? Of course not. Britain is more than capable of making its own choices. My point is this: Queen Elizabeth is being remembered for her service, for her dedication to Britain. In that case, would she approve of such extravagance, especially when her countrymen are staring at higher inflation and even recession? British taxpayers have always footed the monarchy's bills, their weddings, their travels, their estates. Everything is funded by the British state. But how long before the people revolt? This sort of out-of-touch spending is exactly why Republicans want to abolish the crown altogether. The funeral budget is playing right into their hands. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.